What's up, everybody, and welcome to another Summoners War Chronicles video. I'm back again to give you more guides, more help. Again, there's a lot of global players that are just coming into the game, and so basically, when I'm coming back, and I'm kind of realizing where are people to raid. I've been having a lot of trouble finding raids, mainly for Twisted Marsh. I kind of blame it on the fact that it's pretty much weekly now, but there are a lot of players that are still having troubles finding like the right teams to do raids. So what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm going to go over all my raid teams, because instead of me making 4 separate videos on all the raids, I'd rather just I'll add in seal too. So basically 5 separate raids. So I'll add in every single team that I use for pretty much every raid plus seal, since I pretty much have my Twisted March team down now. I was having trouble with it, but now I have a pretty solid team that I'm pretty much going to improve over time. But before I get into everything, please make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't, comment any helpful tips that you would like for me to give to you, and I will try to answer as much as possible, and I may make a video on it, in the future. I'm here to help out people with newer content, or just like the newer players that are trying to do anything in the game. I just want to help out newer players that really like playing Summoners War Chronicles just as much as I do. So like I said, in this video, I'm going to give you all my raid teams, and I'll give you some other suggestions for monsters that you may not have, just so you can have an easier time going in. Some of the entry lines are a little bit strict when it comes to the higher raids, but for the lower raids, there are a lot of open options that you could use that will pretty much help you in any in a lot of content. So let's get into the video. All right. So the first one is Reed Hill. I'm just kidding. You don't need help with Reed Hill. The first one is actually Foggy. So the thing about Foggy is it's a very easy entry level raid. For the most part, you don't need a crazy team for this. Like, I highly suggest the God Squad. I'm gonna say the God Squad a lot, but the God Squad is essentially Shannon, Kona, and Acelia. Shannon being the Wind Pixie, Konamiya being the Water Garuda. I want to say Wind Garuda, Water Garuda, and then Acelia being the Fire Pixie. Now, these 3 are better for Kina and Orbia than it is for Cleve. I almost forgot his name for some reason, but it's a lot better for those 2 than it is for Cleve. The reason why is because Kina and Orbia can apply burn pretty easily. If you're the Orbia, I suggest Fire Orbia for most raids, considering that you get more damage out of Fire Orbia, bar none. Wind Orbia is fine as well because it adds a defense break in the brand, but if you have a Cilia in your team, you run Fire Orbia, and that way you pretty much have the most consistent defense break in the team. You will never have defense break off ever if you have Fire Orbia, because you apply so much burn, and the Cilia turns the burns into defense break. So it's pretty much a lot easier if you just use those 3 monsters if you're just getting into the raid. So luckily, in the beginning of Summoners War Chronicles, they literally give you all 3 for free, and they're very easy to pretty much like skill up, awaken, and get them to the higher power. I believe the entry level for Foggy is like a 220 power, which isn't really too hard. You farm some subjugation, get some better gear for your Kina, farm some runes for a bit. Once you get a good set of runes on your monsters, you should be able to hit 220 relatively fast, depending on how much you're playing within like a week. So I would say the easiest beginner team for that is essentially just Shannon, Conan, and Celia. What I essentially use for most of my teams, not this, I don't know why this is here, but what I use is pretty much Bastet, Nar and Ha, and pretty much Helia. I don't run a healer because I just dodge everything. I'm pretty used to this right now. I pretty much auto it at this point. But this is the team I pretty much use. You can use the same thing if you want. I highly suggest for people, again, if you're a global, the Bastet event is going on right now. Please, please do not mess up. Do not mess up with a Bastet. Also, let me get this out the way, the meetup. If you're in LA, we have a meetup coming up on April 22nd. If you guys are in LA, you're watching this video and you want to come by, go ahead, come by. It's at the Tom's Watch Bar. I'll make it a little small short on it, but come on by. Let me get out the way so you can see the power levels. All right, so they're out the way. But yeah, so when in the beginning, I used Bastet for almost everything. Bastet is really, really good. So I suggest for a lot of people use Bastet. She's really good again for the attack buff, the shield to mitigate damage, and also just the S2 is really good to add a little bit of extra damage, plus also the attack break. So these are the 3 that I'm pretty much using right now. Naranha pretty much is a replacement for Argon, because I don't have an Argon. I am not lucky enough to have an Argon. I actually may go like full damage. Then I have a Windy. I may actually put in like Windy, because Wendy's also pretty good. But for the most part, again, I just use Bastet because Bastet's pretty much like literally my highest power unit. And again, she's also like a hybrid damage, hybrid buffer. I can show you her. I'll show you her runes right now, so that way people can understand like how I use her. So let me just show you real quick so you can get like a quick understanding of how I use her. So this is my Bastet. If you haven't seen it before, she's on HP with some crit rate, and you know she's on Rage Blade, so she can add a little bit of damage. So she kind of serves two purposes, like a support and a little bit of damage. That's why she's great. You can do the same thing with her. You can do literally the same thing with her. You can do HP crit damage HP. It is actually a good build. It is not a troll. I remember in the beginning I thought it was a troll. Then I started using it. I'm like, this is actually not that bad. It's actually pretty good. So if anything, like I said, you know, if you want to use Bastet the way, you're fine to do that. But you know, you could also do triple HP defense. I believe you should do triple HP because her shield is based off her HP, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, so it's based off of her. It's based off of her max HP. So try to make her as tanky as possible. That's pretty much why I have her triple HP. But you could also try to do a hybrid thing and add damage to her as well. But Bastet's really good. So this is a team I use. But for the most part in the beginning, like I said, for Foggy, it's not too crazy. You don't have to go too hard when it comes to like making a team. But like I said, a very beginner team is Shannon, Conan, and Celia. That you can pretty much like alter your team however you see fit. But I suggest the God Squad to a lot of people, primarily for their fact because they allow you to carry a lot of content in the game without having to use so much resources. And in Summons War Chronicles, resources are pretty scarce in the beginning, and you don't want to just like throw it everywhere, because a lot of people come to me like, I'm broke, how do I get more gold? I'm broke. And I'm telling you right now, use a lot of 3 stars and 4 stars. They will save you a lot of money and a lot of headache in the beginning. So I would say that's what you should do for Foggy. After that, it's pretty much, like I said, it's pretty much just doing the raid, getting used to mechanics, getting used to dodging. I always suggest killing the range one first, then going for the melee one. The range one's pretty annoying. A lot of people like to kill both at the same time, but I've never done that. I'll tell most people that are doing the raid, if you want to have an easier time, just kill the range one, because he's a little bit annoying if you go the opposite. And also, if the melee one is the last one alive, he's very easy to just dodge, because all his attacks are just pretty much like AoE around him. So you see the little circle, and that's it. It's pretty simple. So I would suggest a lot of people just do that. But yeah, overall, like I said, you can do what I'm doing, or like I said, if you're a beginner, Shannon, Cody, Celia, that would be fine. It works just well. Alrighty. For White Shadow Castle, the team remains the same for me, at least. It is Bastet, Helia, and Naraka, especially right now. Mainly because now what I do White Shadow Castle, we usually do no arms. And what I mean by no arms is, you know, in White Shadow Castle, if you've done the raid, you know, like he has that attack where he goes down, and you have to pretty much do enough damage to the arms so that it pops back up. When I do the raid, that never happens. We do enough damage to where we pretty much skip that, and he does pretty much the AoE attack. Everybody pretty much just clumps. Bastet shields pretty much protect us from the damage he emits, and we pretty much just move the thing down. But all of you guys are privileged like that, so I will go over like a very easy entry teams. Again, Bastet, queen. I know she's a desert queen, so it's kind of ironic, but she's really good for this as well. Again, attack break for bosses, and they don't do much damage to you, and then also the attack buff and the shield also really good. They're really great for keeping your team alive. Also, her S3 applies to everybody in the team, so usually in raids you're pretty clumped, especially when you're doing DPS. So with Bastet there, you only need like 1 or 2 Bastets, and you pretty much have an infinite shield plus an infinite attack buff. So she's queen. She's really great. Besides that, the team, everybody should have a Helia. One should have a Helia. One person, maybe 2 people should have Helias, because she's really good. Again, defense back brand, so you can do more damage. But you also want to make sure that your Helia isn't too squishy, because a lot of people go in a little too easily. So you want to make sure that, yes, your Helia is pretty much, she could be on damage, she could be on full damage, but if your Helia is dying too much, you may want to switch to like maybe an HP cure damage attack build or hybrid, or maybe HP cure damage HP. For the most part, just to make sure that she's alive, because the brand is super important. So you want to have that as well. The third unit should be pretty much a DPS unit. It does not have to be Naraka. I used to use Karambit. I used to use Naomi. Naomi's pretty good as a pretty like a 4-star accessible option. There are a lot of really good options. Acelia's pretty good. When I was first doing Wide Shadow Castle, I was doing Bastet, Helia, Acelia. Or no, I didn't do that because that's redundant. I think it was Bastet. I know it's Bastet Acelia. It wasn't Helia yet because my Helia, I didn't have Helia at the moment. I forgot what the third option is, but I did used to use like Helia with like Naomi. I did used to do that though. I used to do Bastet, Naomi, Helia, and like I said, the Bastet would just keep me pretty much safe from anything. And usually I would raid with people that had cleanses, and I would be fine because again we're clumped, so don't have to worry about taking too much damage. But if you're a person, if you're a beginner into this, I highly suggest that you may build a Lulu. Lulu's like once you get to Wide Shadow Castle, this is where you may want to consider starting to build a Lulu, because Lulu is like really good for people that are just starting to raid to help keeping you safe. And then also like the boss does drop debuffs. Like if he does a line attack, and the line attack, attack breaks you and also defense breaks you. You want that off because he does a lot of damage if you get hit with a defense break. So if you're just getting into the raid, you may want to do Bastet Lulu damage. Like it may be a support damage like Helia, or you may want to do like if you see, I guess if there's already a Helia in the team, like add Naomi, add Karambit, add Naraka, just add anything into the team that could potentially do good single target damage, because that's what you pretty much need. You will get there will be teams where you pretty much have to do arms, and that's where you want to have a Helia, because if your team is pretty low on damage, having Helia is a godsend, because again you do the brand. Defense break already lowers the defense, and brand helps you do 25% more damage. So that's why Helia is super important for this. So make sure if you're doing this raid that you actually add that in, so that way you don't have to worry about not having enough damage. And if you're taking a lot of damage, again, Lulu's pretty good. Again, just make sure you're clumped, pop the S3, keep your team healed, keep your team cleansed, so that way you don't have to worry about the defense break and the attack break. And again, those are things that can be pretty deadly in this raid. So if you're a beginner, I highly suggest maybe, like I said, Bastet 1000%, Bastet, Helia, or Acelia, or just a person that gets a defense break. And then the last thing should just be like a damage unit. Like I said, there's Naomi, there's Karambit, there's Wendy. Wendy's pretty good if you have him. There's a lot of Naraka's pretty good. Just anything that's rate appropriate that can give you solid damage. You just want to cover all bases, because a lot of people don't have the luxury of like having a guild to raid with or friends to raid with. So you want to make sure when you go in, you pretty much have everything covered, so that way you can help out your team, and so that way you can complete the content. So that's what I use, and that's pretty much what I would suggest for you guys for Wide Shadow Castle. And we'll move on. All right, so we're not Naraka, and no surprise. So who would have guessed it was the same 3 units? But yeah, we get to a point where you pretty much like use the same 3 units everywhere. But yeah, I would say for Naraka, I use the same 3 units. It should be no shocker. Again, Bastet, Helia, and Naraka. Again, just get damage. I'm at the point in the game where pretty much I don't have to worry about healing ever. I just do damage. Usually, like I said, I raid with other people that pretty much can cause a cleanse. Also in the raid, the part where he does like the AoE hit, or like where you're doing damage and he does the AoE circle hit that can put the bird on you. Usually I just dodge that, unless I know I'm raiding with a Kina, or I'm raiding with people with Lulu or an Annabelle. I just dodge it. Makes it easier on my life anyways. So I use the same 3 monsters again for the same exact purposes. I do if there's already like 2 Bastets, I will take out Bastet and put in extra damage. Like I said, I'll put in Wendy. You can put in Naomi, just to add extra damage. But if I see there's 2 Bastets already, there's no point of a 3rd Bastet, because Bastet will just use her shield all the time. So I just pretty much just put in extra damage, so that way we can do it a little bit faster. But for the most part, again, same old team, so I don't have to worry about anything. The brand, the brand damage dealer, and then Bastet's there for, like I said, damage, attack, buff, shield, all that stuff to keep me safe. Again, if you're just getting into this raid, this is where Lulu comes up again. Lulu is great. Lulu or Annabelle. I suggest Lulu for most people because of the fact that she's a 4-star, easier to get, easier to skill up. Annabelle's great, but I think it depends. It depends on you and like your situation. Like if you don't have much things to use Devilmon for, you have the Devilmon lying around, sure, use Annabelle. She's actually really great for this content, and also she's great for the next raid, but we'll wait off on that. But you can use Annabelle or prep an Annabelle. Annabelle's great. You can toss her in, so you could do like Bastet Annabelle and again damage. You could do like a Bastet Annabelle and Naraka, Bastet Helia. Like those are all good options for the team as long as you're making sure you hit the damage cap. But I will say this: one thing you have to be mindful for. Actually, I kind of messed this up, but one thing you gotta be mindful for. I haven't done content in a while, so you gotta excuse me, but you don't have to don't use Naraka. I do because I trust my teammates, but for the most part, don't use her. I should just give you terrible advice. Please put in Kermit. Actually, I just realized that if you for the people that are just beginning this raid, please put in Kermit. Kermit or Dark Cowgirl. Dark Cowgirl will probably be a little bit easier, actually a lot easier for most players. The reason why is because when the boss does a slam, he basically has a protective veil that, you know, reduces damage that he's taking. So you want to be able to get it. You want to hit a damage cap so that makes him fall, and you can't do that unless you have units that ignore the damage reduction. So that's why you want Cassie, and that's also you want Kermit. Kermit is available to everybody, so when you're going to Boiling Waterfall or Naraka, whatever you want to call it, make sure you have one or the other. And other than that, the team is fine. I don't know why. I just gave you guys terrible advice. I just realized that I can't do that to you guys. I'm sorry. But for the most part, like I said, make sure you have, like I said, Bastet, Helia, or Cassie, or make sure somebody has a defense break because that's pretty important. Or the Orbia, use Wind Staff so that way there's a defense break in the brand. But for the most part, you can use this team, or like I said, if you're having trouble staying alive, which sometimes a lot of you guys do, just switch it out for Lulu. So that way you don't have to worry about when that heal block comes onto you, you cleanse off that heal block because you do take a burn. And the only way to take off that burn is if you pretty much heal to full HP. If you don't heal to full HP, that burn stays and it just takes you down until you die. So what you want to make sure is that you're able to basically stay healed and stay cleansed. So if you're having trouble, with that burn, again, just dodge it. Not hard to dodge. Just run out the circle. As soon as you see the circle coming, just dodge, like triple dodge out, and then triple dodge back in and do DPS. So that's options as well. The second phase is also the fire sprites. So you want to make sure that when you're doing the fire sprites, you have something that can pretty much like help you with that. If you are Orbia, just switch to that's why I also just like pretty much Cassie. Cassie helps, and if you're Orbia, switch to Water Staff. I know Kina does a knockback, and I'm pretty sure Water. I'm not a Cleave main. Don't judge me. But I think Cleave does a knockback as well in Water. I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong. If you know you're a Cleave main, then you know. Also, what you could do as well is make a tractor. A tractor is a very, very cheap option to do because you pretty much just stick them in. Like, just stick them in for the part where you need help with the shields, because tractor does provokes, and provokes break the shield. So if you're having really, really hard trouble with that, just build a tractor on like full tank and just high accuracy. It doesn't matter how you build him because you're only gonna use it for that part. So just make him super tanky. He does his provoke. You clear up the fire sprites, then just switch him out back to your normal team. So you can use that as well. But if you're having trouble with the fire sprites, just make tractor. I was using tractor in the beginning. Then I got to a point where Kermit and they would just destroy it anyway. So that's why I suggest that as well. But for the most part, like I said, you can just use, like most beginner teams should be, just Bastet, Lulu, and Cassie or Kermit. Like, just pick one or the other, and just make sure that you have a defense breaking your team. If there are one or two Lulus and a couple of Kinas, then you can switch, or Annabelles. Annabelles, also, like I said, Annabelles is good too. But if there's like two Annabelles, make sure the team comp is right. If there's enough Annabelles, then like I said, switch to Helia. Helly is really, really great. Gives you that defense break brand, and pretty much your team will be complete. Just make sure you have a defense break, make sure you have enough cleanse, and your team will be fine. And make sure you stay clumped together when you're doing DPS, and you'll be fine. And make sure you avoid the fire puddles too, because it puts the burn on you, and a lot of people don't pay attention to the ground, so basically the fire puddle kind of messes them up. So pretty much make sure you're avoiding those as well. And that's my teams. Again, apologize for messing you guys up. I don't know why I said Naraka. I'm really tripping on that. But yeah, that's what I use for Naraka. And then we'll move on to the last raid. All right, so we're Twisted March. Now, before you guys give me crap for the Nikki, I didn't build it. I don't need to build an Annabelle. I'm just privileged, all right? But this is my team for Twisted March. Naraka is actually here. She's not a mistake this time. She's actually supposed to be here. But for Twisted March, this is the team I use, or the team I'm going to improve, because I just started doing it literally yesterday. And so now I get to improve it and make sure that it's up to par. But this is the team that I will start doing Twisted March with. Pretty much has everything covered. I have a Nikki for the cleanse. Again, if you have Nikki, just use Annabelle. If you don't have Annabelle, use Lulu. Just go down the line. Pick one of the three. And then Hellions for the defense break brand, and make sure that, make sure that the damage is up, because the boss is kind of tanky, so you need to make sure you're doing enough damage. I will say for this, if you're using Helia, make sure she's tanky, because when the boss does that AoE attack, and she's really squishy, then she will die. And you don't want units to die, because that allows the boss to get the ultimate, which basically wipes everybody. So if you use Helia, make sure she's tanky. If not, Sekhmet's also a really good option, because Sekhmet does apply a defense break, or just bring in anybody that can apply a defense break, or like I said, a Wind Orbia, great if you are an Orbia main. I use Naraka because you want damage, so you can use Naraka, you can use Argan. For what I was told by Baker's Goods, if you guys know Baker's Goods, he's pretty much a top player, or one of the top players on West Annabelle. He says chilling is pretty good, but I would suggest for a lot of people to bring in just try to get an Argan, or try to get a Naranja. This is also at a point where you gotta be really high power, because I believe the cap is 390, or the cap for bonus is 390, and you definitely want to be in bonus when it comes to this raid. So this is where it gets a little bit harder when it comes to trying to get to this raid. I'm just letting you guys know basically what I use, and so that way if you ever get to the point, you can kind of see what I'm using, and there's a video to fall back on. So this is pretty much the team I'll be using. Like I said, ignore the Nikki, just use Annabelle. But I just have Nikki, so I just use her, and she's already built. She's already double mine. She's like 13 awakened. Might as well just use her. So I use Nikki for the exact same, for pretty much the cleanse, and then also she does the attack buff to my team to allow me to do more damage. Helly is for also defense breaking brand, and Narha is for also additional damage. But for the most part, the team I use, this is also one of those raids, again, a lot of you guys may not be able to do at the current moment because of the fact that the power cap is 390. But when you get to this point, you kind of see you're kind of starting to see some units that you should pretty much focus on for the most part, and it gives you a chance to pretty much learn what units to focus on that you can have for long-term investment. So you saw pretty much Helia. You see Helia pretty much all of them. Actually, not pretty much. She wasn't all of them. You use Helia. If you got a Helia, you gotta get her awakened. Use her. She's great. Bastet. That's why I said the Bastet event is super important, and pretty much the best event we have ever had in this game. Please make sure you get a Bastet. I know I'm saying this so many times, but people just don't realize how great that event was. It's super amazing. So people may watch this after the event is gone and be like, "Oh man, we missed out on that." The event is amazing. Trust me, it's literally the best event we've ever gotten in this game. It's so great. Yeah, Bastet, Helia, Lulu. There are a lot of key monsters that you pretty much want to hold on to and improve as you go on. So I would say those are probably the three that you really want to make sure to invest into. Bastet, Helia, Lulu, and then obviously there's some niche ones after that. I would niches would be Naruto's little niche, because you don't need her for every raid, but you could. But you pretty much use it every raid besides Naraka. And then yeah, so you know what kind of pretty much me telling you my teams to kind of give you an idea of what units to focus on that can get you long-term investment, and that can pretty much alleviate headaches for a lot of you guys, because a lot of you guys don't know what to focus on. You guys are wondering what unit should I use, what unit should I focus on, and look on, and pretty much like look forward to using in the end game, so that way you don't feel like you're wasting materials. So this is why I pretty much am making this video, so I can show you guys what I use and just give you guys suggestions what to use, so that way you don't have to worry about that, and you can end that question on your end. So those are the teams that I use for every single raid, and I'll just now finish off in Seal. Alrighty, so for the last place is Seal. Seal is a unique place because if you didn't know, how you mainly do damage in Seal is by damage over time, aka dots. So the many form of dots in this game, if I can remember, there's burn, frostbite, poison, electric shock. It's not like something like static shock, but yeah, electric shock. And that's as far I can remember off the bat. There's probably a couple more, but yeah, there are a lot of key units you can use for this. The suggestion I would use is a lot of you guys you're on global. You should get the Chamomile event. You should get that event. So if you guys get the Chamomile event, that's also a really, really good event and a really, really important event because the Chamomile is great. And in Seal because he can extend dot effects, and that's why he's super good for Seal. So that way, I would say when it comes, really focus on getting in the Chamomile. Mine's is A15. He's fully leveled. Everything. He's literally fully skilled. Everything. He's really great for this content and really, really solid because of that. He applies electric shock himself, and again, like I said, he extends dot effects, which is really, really good. So you want that as well. Besides the Chamomile, I'm gonna go over like pretty much every single dot unit that you have the option of using, and I pretty much have all of them built besides a couple. So like there's Seal, literally Seal. Her name is Seal. She's pretty much named after the content. But Seal is great because she applies, if I'm not mistaken, she applies burn. No, excuse me. She applies poison and one more. It slips my mind right now because I just used the unit. She's probably burn and bleed. There we go. That's the other one. She applies burn and bleed. That's why she's really good because she pretty much applies 2 dot effects instead of 1. So a lot of these monsters that go into Seal, usually they're just applying they're applying a burn or applying a dot effect where she applies 2. So she's really solid for that. There's also Sara. If there is multiple Chamomiles, there's no point in bringing like a whole bunch of Chamomiles. So I usually try to bring in like double daughters or triple daughters, so that way it can help out. So because I'm an Orbia, I use pretty much burn, poison, bleed, and frostbite. So that way there's 4 dot effects, so it makes it a lot faster. But that's also if there's no Bernards. There's a lot of Bernards, but I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, there's also Cassie. There's also Dark Imp. There's also Tatu, which is a fire pixie for you guys to play Sky Arena. You know that Tatu, has dots. Has burns. So you can also explode the burns in Chronicles, but you have to make sure that it's max stats before you explode it. So you can use her as well. There's a lot of good options. I believe people are gonna ask like Naraka because she does apply frostbite, but she's not the greatest frostbite applier. If you want a frostbite applier, just make Sara. Just make her high accuracy. I have her on range blade, but she's mainly just tank. She's missing a room, but she's mainly just tank. So that way I can just apply the frostbite. That's why she's super high accuracy. And she's on accuracy slot 6, so she's there for just pretty much applying the frostbite, and pretty much that's it. So that's what you're pretty much do. And also the last unit is pretty much Bernard. If Bernard, because like the boss does a lot of really fast attacks, so with Bernard applying the tailwind, you move faster, so that makes it easier to dodge a lot of the effects or a lot of the moves that the boss does, because he'll do one and then another one like right instant, and you want to make sure that you're dodging both. So making sure there are enough Bernards helps your team stay alive. It helps you stay alive. It helps everybody stay alive because they're able to dodge stuff really easily. So make sure there's enough Bernards. I would say at least like 2 or 3. If there are like max 3 Bernards, you can switch out Bernard and apply another damage over time. Again, if you're Orbia, just use fire or dark staff. If you're Kina, use fire, and I believe Wind Cleave applies electric shock. So all of the MCs have options to apply dots themselves. So make sure everything is, you know, set to go. But like I said, I just use Bernard, Sarah, Seal, and a cat mirror. That's pretty much the monsters I pretty much interchange when I'm doing Seal. And that's the teams I use for pretty much everything in the game. Just going over that, just to let you guys know. I know it's a long video, so if you stayed throughout the whole entire video, thank you, I appreciate it. Also give the video a like if you guys liked me just going over what my teams are and what I use, if that helped you out. Also, again, put in the comment section what type of things that you need help with and what I can help you with overall. But again, thank you for watching the video. I appreciate you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.